Sean Penn, one-on-one. He's an actor, a filmmaker, an all-round Hollywood badass.
I'm talking to you. Talking to me? Yeah.
On the big screen.
My name is Harvey Milk, and I'm here to recruit you.
He's won plaudits and 2 Oscars.
I did not expect this.
For his powerful performances.
This is my daughter!
He's won both fans and enemies for his powerful political views.
Sean Penn is an arrogant and self-involved person.
His latest movie is a documentary, Superpower, which charts Russia's brutal war on Ukraine. Penn found himself trapped in Kyiv on the very day Putin's forces invaded, where he came face to face with a president under siege.
So, you're our home.
Now, with a new war raging in the Middle East, here's a powerful message for the world. It's emotional, thought-provoking, controversial. It's all very Sean Penn, and it's very uncensored. And Sean Penn joins me now. Sean, great to see you. It's been quite a while, 10 years, I think, since I last interviewed you.
Yeah, not that.
We're in a world of self-identity. Are you here identifying as an actor, a humanitarian, an activist, or something else?
Good question. I suppose I'm here identifying as somebody who'd like to get eyes and ears on this film, Superpower, and a continued conversation on our obligations to Ukraine.
The film, I've watched it twice. I think it's a great film.
Thank you.
And it couldn't be more timely because due to events in the Middle East with the Israel-Hamas war, a lot of global attention has moved away from Ukraine. And President Zelensky, who I know you know well, and I went to Kyiv and interviewed him myself, is very concerned that while the world looks away, Vladimir Putin will accelerate his attempt to effectively take as much of Ukraine as he can get. How perilous do you think this moment is for Ukraine?
I think the way I equate it is how perilous is it for mankind in our general mission focus, be that with our families or with the world at large. There are not too many distractions available to get us off course if we don't let there be. The concerns in the Middle East are, of course, very real and great. But with the principles intact that those in the world who believe in freedom, whether you call it democracy or something else, we're not given more to do than we're able to do. And I think it's just the micro stuff and the breaking down of each other in all of this is really the distraction that we should worry about. Obviously, that's manipulated by enemies. I never felt that, for example, President Putin's trip to Tehran was strictly about drones. And I do believe that there was an influence on what happened October 7th in Gaza, in Israel, that too was influenced by this. So these things have connections, and so to defeat those things or for freedom to triumph is to be able to maintain focus on both and the other issues of the day.
Do you see parallels between what's happening in Israel and Gaza and the Ukraine-Russia war?
Well, of course, there are certain parallels. The wanton disregard for, and in fact, proactive attack on civilians, on children, on infrastructure. And the biggest parallel, I suppose, the one I think we could spend our time most productively focusing on is the way in which, and this extends to so much else, the way in which nuance is not allowed into the conversation. Now, what's not a parallel in the case of, what's not nuanced at all in the Ukraine-Russia conflict, or rather Russia's criminal invasion of Ukraine, is that's a very unambiguous set of circumstances. It's a very clear black hat involved here, a black hat against all our human principles with Russia's horrible and misguided invasion, and all the murder, and all of the taking of children and re-educating of children to hate their parents and their country, and things we just shouldn't stand for as any single section of it. My sense is that, and I'm not an expert on the Middle East, but my sense is certainly that with the horror of what Hamas has done, that to get to a productive result for Jews, for Israelis, for Arabs in Israel, for Arabs in Gaza and the West Bank, and around the Middle East, we might not like it, but it's going to take a very nuanced conversation, and the sooner we get to it, the better. And the more push there is, or resistance to that conversation, it will, the legacy will be that those who pushed against the nuanced conversation would have been the ones to have extended the problem.
You recently told Variety magazine, before what's just blown up in the Middle East, if you'd been US president after 9/11, you'd have done things differently. You said, if I have to go to prison, I'll go, but I'm going to kill them. I'm killing everyone that did this, but only them. And we know where the F's they are, where the F they are. In the context of that gut response that you had to 9/11, do you understand why Israel has reacted the way it's done, even if you don't endorse it? But do you understand their desire, their fervent need as a country to go after Hamas and eliminate the people that perpetrated the terror attack?
Were Hamas living in remote mountains of Tora Bora, I would have absolutely understood it. But when you have a place like, topographically similar, let's say it's Malibu, California in size and scope, and though 100 times more populated, when we think of Gaza, we do have to understand, without taking a side, being a defender, apologist for anything, those children are hearing every gunshot throughout the country, are feeling every ordnance that drops. This is 24/7. This is a tiny place packed with people. That's very different. I would say absolutely I would like to see Hamas evaporated in mountains like Tora Bora, as perhaps could have al-Qaeda at that time.
If you do a constant bombardment for many weeks, as the way the Israelis have done, you're going to kill thousands and thousands of completely innocent children. And I find that morally repugnant that that's happening. And yet I defend their moral right to go after Hamas. It's a difficult situation, isn't it?
It's very difficult. Of course, one has to be very aware. That could have been my daughter or son at that music festival, for example. I mean, I understand the immediate reaction to that, even the long-term reaction to it. But again, we do have to also say, well, it's somebody else's children next time. And when I said that I felt that, that I had a dream that President Bush might just say, I'm sending the White House counsel home. This has to be done. We'll suffer the consequences later in Tora Bora with al-Qaeda. I also said that having done that, he might have licensed himself to then go back in time and say, in what ways? Again, we know these are the kind of things that people love to chew apart. In what ways were we complicit in the poverty, in the hopelessness, in the oppression of a people somewhere else, in the lack of inclusivity of those people that contributed to that hatred that came our way? So in this case too, there are the big differences. One is the civilian population of Gaza, and the other is that we are told not to speak about the accountability of Israel and the United States in their support of Israel, in many ways unconditional support. And I'm a 48% Ashkenazi Jew.
Right.
I have nothing but love for my ancestry and ancestors. That doesn't have anything to do with the fact that I think that while Israel's people were criminally, horrifyingly attacked, that Israel also has a prime minister who is a terror by any measure of basic political thinking. That's bad timing.
You think he's an actual terrorist, Netanyahu?
Well, I didn't say terrorist. I wouldn't necessarily jump to say that, because I think I don't know that he's trying to create terror so much as he's trying to create an inflated sense of his own worth in his time.
Your father, the actor and director Leo Penn, as you said, an American Jew of Eastern European descent, also a highly decorated war veteran. He served as a tail gunner and bombardier in the B-24 Liberator with the US Air Force in World War II, actually stationed here in England.
That's right.
And of course was fighting the Nazis, which were an existential threat to civilization at the time. You know, many Israelis say what they're going through now is the worst existential threat to what happened to them in the Holocaust. Your dad was an amazing guy. Life expectancy for the role that he played in that war was 7 missions. He did 37.
He did.
Is that where you get this warrior spirit from?
I would only aspire to it. I've never been tested like that. Yeah, but he is the hero in my experience. Yeah.
What would he, do you think, have made of what's happening now with Israel? And what advice would he give them, do you think, to try and get to a better place?
My dad used to have an expression when I would come home very opinionated on one issue or another and very angry at anyone who believed differently. He would say, you know, everyone has their own truth, kid. And I think his advice would be for people to recognize what is true of each other's position. And then it's also important to recognize what is a lie that group thinkers tell themselves to be comfortable and to have a group and an identity. And I think this extends again to the broader cultural picture of a lot of what's distracting from us getting down to the things that will help our world be better.